What's going on, beautiful royal family? All praises to the Most High God of Israel. Now, family, I already know some of you and your little smart mouths. I already know, oh, he can do this, but he can't do lessons. Well, let me go ahead and explain something to you. I am a fisher of men. And as every intelligent fisherman knows, every once in a while, you got to change your bait for the water. Now, let's go ahead and jump into this. As many of you know, before I started doing lessons, I was doing movie reviews. This movie right here pulled me out of retirement. It took me several days to even talk about this movie calmly because I was that angry, irritated, and just downright depressed walking out of that theater. So I know there are many of us that do not mind if our children watch R-rated movies, but I have to give you this warning in advance. Do not take your children to watch this movie. Do not do it. Don't. This movie is traumatizing in a lot of ways, and we're going to talk about it. Do not take your child to see this movie. And as a matter of fact, save your money and don't go see it either. I am encouraging you to stay away from the theater to see this movie because it is not worth your time and it certainly is not worth your money. So let's go ahead and start talking about one of the big major problems right now. We're going to get into little tidbits and stuff, but let's get the big one out of the way here. The problem that Warner Brothers now have. Here's your problem. Since 2019, you have an intellectual property that you advertised, marketed to your fan base as Joker / the Joker. And for all of you idiots out there trying to say, well, it doesn't say that he is the Joker or whatnot, you guys are idiots. We're going to get into that later too. But the character of the Joker, the enemy of Batman in DC Comics, that is who you advertised and marketed to us as that character since 2019. So, here's a spoiler. In that movie, the character Arthur Fleck comes right out and says, I'm not the Joker. What did that instantly do? That instantly removed everything that you created in the first movie. Because that character is not the Joker. So now y'all got a problem. Because you took your intellectual property and you falsely advertised it to an entire fan base. So, needless to say, we want our money back. The amount of times that we went to go see it the first time, even if you went and saw it once, the first and second movie, I want my money back. Now, me, I was the person that went and viewed it multiple times, the first movie. And I was taking people with me to go see it. I was like, y'all got to see this movie because I was a major fan of the first one. I want my money back. I deserve to have my money back because that is not the person that you gave us. That you willingly admitted in the second movie that is not the Joker. So, being that it's not, and what a way to alienate your fan base, by the way, you idiots. For those of you who are unfamiliar with how they make films and like the lead up and everything to a film being released, they have something that they call dailies. The dailies is an opportunity for the studio executives to be able to look at the film and be like, okay, yeah, this is going in a direction that we see is going to make us profit. I have to ask the question, who in their right mind were watching those dailies, if there even were any, because it was admitted that they didn't even do any test screening for this movie either. Which makes me believe that they weren't watching the dailies either. Because I cannot allow my brain to accept the idea that someone literally greenlit this movie. Turned the green light on and said, Todd Phillips, yep, we are not going to ask any questions about what you do. You made us $1 billion in the first movie. Go do what you want. That is very hard for me to accept. So the only reason that I can think why the studio allowed this movie to be put out was because they wanted to destroy anything that was DC related to set up the DCU, which is one of the most idiotic ideas, plans, strategies that you can have, being that you still have so many of us that is upset over the Snyderverse. That's the one that we wanted. Not to say that it did not have its issues, but at least they were going back to correct them. And it was the definitive on film comic book, universe. We'll just say that. Because all of the other films, like the independent Batman films of that nature, they didn't have their own universes or whatnot. They didn't have those. So the Snyderverse was our first introduction into that. So what is the big problem over at Warner Brothers right now? The problem is they do not allow their directors / artists to have control over their movies. If you give me a project and says, here, I'm going to trust this with you, that's what I expect. Trust me with this. Stop interfering with my film. But as you see, they did. They've been doing that ever since 2016 with Batman vs. Superman. 2 Suicide Squad, and all the rest of them as well. Does DC not realize that they haven't had any hits? Think about this. Since 2013, when Man of Steel first came out, it's been what? 11 years. No hits. You had the 2 biggest names in all of comic book genre. Batman versus Superman. And that did not make $1 billion. That's a shame. When you had his predecessor in the Nolanverse destroying numbers for that time. And if you was to compare it to inflation, it would still wipe the Snyderverse out of the picture. So you have to ask yourself, like, what is Warner Brothers really doing? Do y'all even want a fan base? Because it doesn't seem like you do. Because you're just alienated, including me. You've alienated so much of your fan base. I'm like, I don't want to go back and watch another DC movie. I could not care less. So that James Gunn movie that you have coming up, Superman Legacy, yeah. Many of us are not even going to that. Because we just said goodbye for this nonsense that you just gave us with this one here. Absolutely idiotic. Completely idiotic. So now, that was that. I want to get into some more serious issues with the movie now. First and foremost, sexual assault. This movie glorifies sexual assault. And you can feel that they shoehorned their agenda into this movie, and it didn't need it. In any way, shape, form, or fashion, whoever allowed this, first and foremost, Todd Phillips, you disgusting, gross creep. And we always knew that he was a creep, even since, what was that, Road Trip, with the sucking of Amy Smart's toes and all that in the movie. And we all knew that he was a creep. We got that. But in this one here, he really showed how disgusting he truly, truly is. Within the first 10 minutes of the movie, here it is, the Joker / Joker kisses a man on the mouth. No. There was no need for that whatsoever. None. It didn't add to the story. It didn't need to add to the story. And most importantly, it is absolutely disgusting to many of us that do not condone that lifestyle. I'm one of the ones that do not condone that lifestyle. I didn't pay my money to go see that. So there was no need for it to be in the movie. And the only reason why I mentioned that it did not add to the movie, because there was absolutely, literally, there was no plot for that at all. None. He just did it. Which means it was someone's sick, perverse mind and they wanted to see it. So that was just the first one. The next part. The next act of sexual assault. They RAPE the Joker. Why did it have to be implemented in the movie? First and foremost, and I know I say that's my filler term, first and foremost, so forgive me for keep repeating that term, but sexual assault isn't something that should be glorified. It is not funny. It is not cute. It is not amusing. It is not appealing. It is absolutely deplorable. And for you, Warner Brothers, Todd Phillips, to put that in the movie and have people relive their trauma from all of the sexual assault victims out there, you guys are some bastards. You really are. To make a first and foremost to traumatize us with that whack movie, then to continuously implement sexual assault, and that RAPE scene was just disgusting. It was brutal. And in all fairness, they didn't show it, but they led up to it. And they did everything. They did everything up to the point until insertion. All the worst parts, they made sure they emphasized. You can feel the architecture of evil just weaving itself all throughout that movie as they were making it. And that's the big problem that I have, because I'm like, wait a second, I'm a fan of film. I'm a fan of cinema. So what's about to happen is that I am not going to be able to enjoy these things because I see the direction and where they're going. Mark my words now, there's going to be something in Superman Legacy that is going to make us be like, what? And I know the movie hasn't even come out yet, but just watch. You're going to see, just watch. Just watch. It's like they're taking all of these characters that have these cookie cutter type backgrounds from their history, and they are just ruining them with the way that society is viewed today. How stupid can you possibly be? I know that you can sensationalize things and give it a more grounded tone, but isn't the whole idea behind watching movies is for us to escape our reality? And that is something that Hollywood has just completely forgotten about. We watch movies to live in that fantasy so that we can escape the world. Not to go there to be brutalized by it and then return to an equally brutally world. No. No. It really takes some revisioning with this here. And I'm going to tell you, if I was a person that has stroke, if I had any decision-making power, sexual assault would be something that I completely eradicate from film altogether. I would make it criminal to do it. It doesn't need to happen under any circumstances. It does not need to happen. Now, the next part of this movie here, let me tell you something. It was very lazy. What do I mean by that? The way that they described Arthur, first, he dies in the movie. He dies. He dies in the movie. He is killed by another inmate. So, this is where they get lazy. First, this was a younger, maybe in his 20s or whatnot. He takes a knife, gives himself a glass cow smile. It's off, like, it's not off camera, but it's in the distance. You can't see it. It's not close up, but you know what he's doing. Making it seem like, okay, well, that was actually the Joker and Arthur Fleck was not the Joker. And by the way, in the movie, Arthur Fleck just says he's not the Joker. I know I said that earlier, but I had to remind you. He's not the Joker in this. So now we're just watching this schlub that put on face paint. That's all both of the movies were. The schlub that had a moment that put on face paint, but that is not what you marketed. Sorry, but it's not. So the inmate kills Arthur. Arthur dies. And now they're trying to give, oh, well, it's the spirit of Joker. It's this idea of the Joker. And that's the thing that I can't stand. This idea and the spirit of the Joker, whatever, when there is an intellectual property with a character likeness known as the Joker. That is the guy that we paid for. That's who we want to see. That is an actual person. Yes, he is a person. He is not a mythical character in the DC lore. No, he is an actual person. So which means give us that person. $1 billion at the box office meant continue that same story. not spinning out of control. And this is where they had it. They had the opportunity for lightning to strike in the bottle twice. If they wanted a courtroom drama, they could have made the first quarter of the movie a courtroom drama. And then, boom, the bomb went off. That could have been the introduction to Harley Quinn. Perfect. And then her and the Joker went on their rampage. Why did we want to see that? Because that's what the comics do. That's what we're fans of. That's the thing that we like. That's when we spent our money on comics and games and all that. That was the story that we got. And for them to take that intellectual property and just completely deviate away from what we are accustomed to, that is criminal. Absolutely criminal. But let me tell you what the biggest criminal act of the entire movie was forcing us to watch a sex scene with Lady Gaga. No, I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to see that. No. Not even the Snyderverse did that. Not even. And yes, we had our problems with Jared Leto's Joker and stuff, but I would take him over this one now any day. Seriously. This was just so lazy. That whole spirit of the Joker thing came from Gotham, the TV show. I'm so glad that Warner Brothers greenlit the Penguin, or there would have been some theaters on fire. I'm telling you. There was so many people walking out the theater like, by the way, I was at the IMAX. There was only 10, probably less than 10 people in the theater when I was there, in an IMAX theater. So don't believe these numbers that they're telling you it made 40 million domestically. No, it didn't. No, it did not. There was less than 10 people in my theater, including me. So now, you have the people out there, the idiot morons that I would love to refer to them as, saying, oh, well, no. You see, there are those of you that just don't know what it was artistically. It was an artistic movie. You don't know what they were trying to express. Yes, we do. They were trying to express one thing. It's called bullshit. Because that's exactly what they gave us. Don't try to take it and spin it. I saw somebody try to do this today. And this is what I said. We were going to talk about this earlier. They said that the movies, neither one, the first or the second one, didn't say the Joker. It's like, are you for real? For real? That's what you're going to do? You're going to do that? Okay. So if that's the case, then that means that Batman 1966 television show was not the definitive Batman. That means 1989 Batman was not a definitive Batman. That means Batman Returns, when he came back, his sequel. And then the sequel after that, Batman Forever. And then Batman and Robin, right? And then we have Batman Begins. So it means that in the Nolanverse, with being Batman Begins, because there was no the Batman on the beginning of any of those, but let's talk about the Nolanverse here for a second. That means that Batman Begins and The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises are not the same person. They're not the same Batman if they're going by those rules. You see how stupid it is? But most importantly, do you see how stupid people are when they try to defend BS? Absolutely dumb. And if everyone is going by that logic, then it means that the Batman, which is the one that came out in 2022, it means that that's the definitive Batman. That's the only one. But that's seriously one of the arguments that they tried. You can't make this up, guys. This movie was absolutely deplorable. I am so glad that the Marvel Universe whooped y'all ass. I'm so happy about it. And I am a DC fan over Marvel. I love DC. I like Marvel too, but I love DC. That is the comic world that I love so much. And y'all made it clear that you have no idea what to do with your intellectual properties anymore. Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder, those two are to get together and have a discussion and be like, all right, what can we do to save the integrity of our movies for what these idiots are ruining with this new universe? And the DCU didn't even come out, and I'm so glad. Do y'all remember when Todd Phillips was trying to introduce DC Dark? And remember, the studio was like, relax, Pony. Calm down, horsey. Relax. You know, you didn't even prove yourself with this first one. And I'm so glad they did not give him the rights to do DC Dark. I am so glad. Because who knows what in the world we would have gotten. And there is nothing wrong with trying to ground these characters and make them more realistic for the society that we live in. When you look at Penguin, they're knocking it out the park with grounded realism. Why couldn't Joker do that? I'll tell you why. Because they intentionally decided to sabotage this movie to cancel out anything, not only that, but to also further their little sick, nasty agenda. And for anyone that has seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, isn't it? The shoehorn of all of this. So, the musical numbers, believe it or not, they weren't even that bad. It wasn't even the musical numbers that made the movie bad, and it wasn't. Because even as we watch DC animations, the Joker has broken out into song or two, so I was able to accept that. We know how the Joker get down. He'll bust out in a song in a minute. So I always had that in the back of my mind when they said it was a musical. And I'm like, okay, well, somebody like Todd Phillips, what he did with the first movie, it's like, okay, I can see him spinning that. That's not a problem. I can see it. But that's not what we got. Even the musicals were shoehorned in, but the music was not the problem in the movie. You felt the boardroom, the executives, with their hand in their pants, just stroking as Todd Phillips was writing the script. Because almost like they were feeding him the things that he just put it on film. There is no other way to explain this. And then I think it was either in Variety or Rolling Stone, it was one of them that I just read today, and it said, okay, well, no, we still have faith in Todd Phillips. Like, there's no way. With the way that y'all are coming, and one of their executives admitted that the movie is bombing. They're like, oh, okay, it didn't hit or it didn't catch the way that we wanted it to, is what they said. And it's like, that's nonsense, you stupid bastards. It's like, what the hell is the matter with you? You perverts. Seriously, I want my money back. For the marketing, for all the people that went out and bought Joker costumes and all that, for this particular one right here, for this particular movie. Because as much as they want to try to say that this movie was not marketed to children, it was still heavily, heavily marketed. And so y'all robbed a lot of people. You conned a lot of people, and you have just probably earned yourself one of the biggest lawsuits if the fans decide to get together and say, nah, we want our money back, because at this point here, because you introduced an intellectual property to us and then said in your very own movie that is not the person, you have just subjected yourself to a lawsuit for false advertising, you stupid ass dummies. You guys are dumb. And as a matter of fact, I'm done talking about this. I'm finished.